The HOA president fined me for my ugly lawn while my husband was dying. When she ran for re-election, I found her one secret and turned the whole neighborhood against her. The first violation notice from our HOA came on the same day the hospice nurse told us my husband, David, had 2 weeks left. I found the crisp white envelope taped to our front door, a $500 fine for failure to maintain lawn aesthetics. The grass was a little long, I'll admit, but I was spending every waking second holding David's hand, not worrying about the dandelions. Our HOA president, Carol, was a woman who wielded her power like a weapon. She patrolled the neighborhood in her golf cart, a clipboard in hand, looking for infractions. A trash can left out an hour too long. A holiday decoration still up on January 2nd. She lived for the tiny thrill of enforcing rules. I tried to explain. I caught her on one of her patrols the next day, my eyes red from crying. Carol, please, I started, my voice shaking. My husband, he's in hospice. The lawn is the last thing on my mind right now. She looked at me over the top of her sunglasses, her expression unreadable. For a second, I thought I saw a flicker of humanity. I was wrong. Rules are rules, Linda, she said, her voice crisp and devoid of any warmth. We can't make exceptions. It sets a bad precedent. She then had the nerve to say that keeping the neighborhood looking its best was a matter of respect for everyone. The second notice came a week later. This one was for $1,000, the fine having doubled. It was printed in red ink. It felt like a slap in the face. David was barely conscious at this point, and I was spending my days trying to spoon-feed him broth and reading him his favorite books, my voice cracking with every word. The day David passed away, I found a third notice under our doormat, threatening a lien on our house if the fines weren't paid. I crumpled it in my hand and just sobbed. 2 days after the funeral, I received a condolence card from Carol. Tucked inside was a handwritten note. Now that you'll have more time on your hands, I expect the lawn to be dealt with promptly. My grief turned into a cold, hard knot of rage in my stomach. I paid the fine. I hired a landscaping service and made our lawn the most pristine, perfect square of green in the entire neighborhood. But I never forgot. A year passed. Life was a blur of quiet, empty nights. Then the flyer started appearing. Re-elect Carol for HOA president. For a community of standards. Her smiling, perfectly coiffed face was taped to every light post. That's when Mr. Henderson, the board's former treasurer, knocked on my door. He was a quiet man who had resigned a few months prior, citing personal reasons. I heard she's running again, he said, not meeting my eyes. He was holding a thick manila folder. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. She's a tyrant, Linda, and she's a thief. He handed me the folder and walked away before I could say a word. I spent that entire weekend with a pot of coffee and the contents of that folder. It was all there. Bank statements, invoices, and expense reports. Carol had created a community beautification fund, which sounded lovely, except the funds weren't going to the community. They were going to her. Thousands of dollars for common area landscaping were paid to a company that had installed her personal koi pond. An invoice for emergency sidewalk repair matched the exact cost of her new custom bluestone patio. She had been using our HOA dues to build her own private resort, all while finding a grieving widow for having dandelions. The annual HOA re-election meeting was held in the community center's gymnasium. The room was packed. Carol stood at the podium, delivering a passionate speech about property values and the importance of a unified aesthetic. Upholding our standards is not always popular, she said, looking directly at me, but it is necessary for the health of our community. I waited for the question and answer session. When the microphone was passed to me, I didn't ask a question. I'd like to make a statement, I said, my voice ringing out clear and steady. I walked to the front of the room and connected my laptop to the projector. Carol is right. Standards are important, especially financial standards. Her pristine smile faltered. The first invoice appeared on the screen behind her. The one for the $20,000 koi pond, paid for by the beautification fund. I clicked to the next slide, the invoice for her patio. Then the bank statements, with the checks signed by her, paying her personal landscaper with our money. A murmur went through the crowd. I didn't have to say another word. People started shouting. I could see the color drain from Carol's face as the neighbors she had terrorized for years finally saw her for what she was, her opponent. A kind retired teacher was elected in a unanimous vote right then and there. Someone else called for an immediate forensic audit of the HOA's finances. Carol tried to slip out the side door, but a dozen people blocked her path, all holding up their own stories of her petty tyrannies. I walked out of that meeting, and for the first time in over a year, I felt the knot in my stomach finally loosen. I went home, and as I looked at the perfectly manicured lawn, I thought of David. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice.